Oh, no one said anything.
That's not how this works, Chris.
Nah. I paused for a while.
Yeah, we were busy.
Honestly.
My internet cut out because
honestly.
I didn't hear anything.
Oh no, no one was saying anything. That's what I'm complaining about. Oh, I can hear myself back now. Oh yeah, that's the thing I was going to say, Christy. Have you got what's it called in Discord? If you go to voice and video, there's a thing. Input sensitivity.
Oh, can you hear my tuk tuk tuks?
Yeah, here's some tippity taps, and I can also hear my voice back a bit. So it's not deactivating itself when it's quiet. So that just happened. So yeah, there's a thing Discord has, which is basically the noise gate, which I was talking about. That you can add to your OBS as well. Noise gates are good. The hand.
So is it automatic sensitivity?
Yeah. It's got a thing that you can set. There's a little bar. If you go to settings in Discord under voice and video. Also, hi Kira.
Kira.
There's a thing called input sensitivity, and the sort of further up you slide that, the more it will sort of cut off quiet sounds. And it should show you how loud your voice is when you speak, to give you an idea, which is nice.
Oh.
It's cool. I meant to say this before the stream, but I'm bad, so don't worry about it. Hi, welcome to the... I'm tempted to just stop the recording and start it again so we can cut that all out of the VOD. But no, you gotta live with it.
Professional streamer.
Professional.
Crazy with tech stuff is an occurring thing always, so...
Tech is hard. I should know. I am a tech. What? I don't know.
Okay.
Anywho, let's hop on over. This is supposed to be a cat. Don't worry about it. Look at this. You've got some cool characters there, and a catfish, and then my horrible squirrel monster in the corner. How you doing, Kira? You alright? Doing good. Also, how's everybody here? I don't think I asked.
You didn't ask.
I didn't ask.
Oh dear.
Incredibly rude. On the plus side, nobody answered, so...
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've got toffee, so I'm very good.
Got one now?
Toffee? Don't you have that?
Toffee what?
Toffee.
Toffee.
It's those little half moon caramel chocolates with a hazelnut in it.
No.
Oh, I thought everyone had that.
No. I've never
Well,
heard of it.
I've got snacks.
You got toffee fiffy. You got morning toffee fiffy.
You got coffee.
I mean, I've had toffee.
Yeah, toffee's nice.
It's kind
And
of
I've
toffee.
definitely had toffee with stuff in it that's also covered in chocolate.
Yeah, just slam a nut in there and that's it.
And I've also had toffee with stuff in it covered in chocolate and then broken apart to put on ice cream.
Ooh. I always forget how to merge layers.
Can you?
Yeah, it's just kind of hidden.
Yeah, there's a little...
Oh yeah, merge down layer, yeah. Little scissor. The one with the scissors, which is not... It's the opposite of merging, isn't it? That's cutting. Dividing.
No, it's
It's
merging.
not a math program, it's fine.
I feel there's more buttons there to make use of now since we first started this. But that might just be because I don't use most of those buttons.
Still hearing a bit of the the voice echo thingy, Christy, so you can
Oh,
just push up the thing. It's very finicky to get the right number. It took me a while. It happens. I can't tell you a number because it depends on your microphone. Sorry,
my microphone is the iPad, so
hate like this nice. And the weird thing is, like, as my echo comes up on screen, your little character speaks with my voice. That's really weird.
is this better?
Nerk's still here.
Well, we can talk, see what happens. I don't hear an echo on me. Oh, wait.
It's weird because we've done this before with like streams where you had a bit of an echo at the start and then the echo went away and then it came back, and it's like how does it become inconsistent? Like the microphone and the speakers are presumably at a fixed distance from one another on an iPad. Like you can't bend the iPad. How does this happen?
Well, you can. It just will result in a broken iPad.
You cannot elastically bend the iPad. The deformation is purely plastic.
This is the best.
Hello?
Any difference?
Hello?
I don't
Perfect.
hear an echo anymore.
Yeah.
You fixed
Technology.
me.
We fixed the thing.
Wee.
For now, until it decides to come back and
It's
haunt
funny
us.
because I put it back to where it was.
Oh, right.
Oh.
Tech.
Does that work?
It doesn't.
I mean,
It's-
look,
It just is.
sometimes you just have to change it and then change it back and then it'll suddenly fix itself. I've had programs that I've written where for some reason the code was not compiling. I copied the code into just a blank text document, closed the compiler, reopened the compiler, copied the exact same code back in, and then it worked.
I've had that when I'm doing things for like the VIA Project VIA gallery, which is as a reminder, there is a gallery where we put all of the Project VIA stuff. So yeah, I had to like write all of the code for that, the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc., etc. But the editor I use sometimes just decides it doesn't want to recognize that tags end at some point, so you can't collapse them, and that's very annoying because you have to scroll through a lot of crap. But it's doing so because it's formatting paragraphs in two different ways. So sometimes if I just delete the paragraph and then put it back in, it's fine now. So
It's just like a toddler throwing a fit over something. And then you have to figure out what they're throwing a fit over. Because the toddler can't tell you because they're a toddler and don't know how to words yet.
Don't know how to words yet. That's me sometimes.
I should actually tell, stream's been going for 13 minutes. Let's actually explain what's going on. This is a stream. It's Project VIA, part 8. 8th stream. And last time we had a prompt. Okay, for anybody who doesn't know Project VIA, we're making a world of like a action-adventure style game akin to Zelda or Dark Souls or what have you. And we all have a zone, and we're all drawing things for each other's zones. And last week, we were prompted to make an enemy, or probably a boss, more accurately, because we keep getting enemy.
This is the third time.
It's the third time, 3rd out of 4, until we do all of them, so... Probably, it does eliminate the possibility once we land on it. It's just, for some reason, we've got quite bad luck. But yeah, we got zones, and we got bosses. And here's some things. We have... Not a lot got done. I haven't done anything this week because I'm still resting my hand, but I think I need to stop doing that to actually get anything done. But Chib, I was about to put some Chib art on stream, but Chib has basically duplicated it.
Yeah.
So, let's just zoom in on that because it's good.
Just instantly appeared.
Here are. While I was struggling to draw a cat, Chib drew 2 unique characters. this is Fame and Fortune, who are, I think we discussed this on the last stream, didn't we? That these are like sort of merchants who are sort of whispering in the ears of a lot of the sort of big bads, making them do things that end up interrupting the flow of life and death, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And so they're the sort of secret big bads, as it were, who, as you wrote in Discord, will fuse for the second half of their boss fight. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Me too.
I'm just reminded of in FF9, which I know you have not played, Chippy.
I was thinking the same thing.
But that's not a bad thing.
Okay.
Because FF9 is one of the more cohesive plots for Final Fantasy games. And those characters are part of the more cohesive part of its plot, so.
No. Are they? I mean, the things they do are connected to the cohesive part of the plot, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they are part of the cohesive part of the plot.
I mean, in the sense that they are not related at all to the part where you have to sit there and go, why are there aliens now?
True, yeah. Look, it happens. Arguably, there were always aliens, but we'll get to that when I do the draw through. Yay. Which I guess would be after this, right?
Assuming we ever find an end to this.
I feel like
If we finish this sometime in the next 5 years, then maybe.
I feel like a comfortable minimum is like two goes round for everybody's zone. So you get everyone's zone twice. If we want to do more after that, we can. We could do 3 or 12, I don't know. But that is, if everybody gets everyone else's zone twice, then that's 20 weeks, which is a decent chunk. And also, when you get someone else's zone later, you'll have more of an idea of what's going on than when you'd had them before.
Yeah.
Which is not saying much because a lot of us have no idea what's going on currently.
We're getting a clearer idea now, at least of the overall plot. Not necessarily.
We're also getting a clearer idea of everyone else. I think. I drew
actually,
2 little
speaking of that-
snaps, so I don't know what to say.
As I've been reading through what Dark has already written for his area and formulating ideas for the Mistake.
Oh yeah,
the boss, one of the possible big bosses for his area. I think having it so that absolutely no one is dying and no one is getting born probably doesn't work well with what Dark has written up so far, with the whole like guerrilla warfare thing going on up in the sky. I do think we should keep that some people are not dying, and it's because of like stealing life and death stuff, because it actually sort of works well with what's going on with this gentleman here, or a modulation of gentlemen's.
yeah. This gentleman.
This gentleman.
Not gentle either.
Arguably not men. Just this.
Just
Just this massive nonsense.
My pronouns are this.
this and
My
that.
pronouns are
This
screen.
and
So, with what Dark has, we've got the previous masters who are now more or less gone, or at the very least, they're not in control of anything. Some of them might still be around. Some of them are still around, but this guy was one of them. But there's definitely some, like, stealing life to prolong life stuff going on here. It just went horribly, horribly wrong. And that's also sort of tying in with what's going on with the, like, mutant monstrosities as well in, like, the arena area. So with the, I'm going to forget his name. The gentleman with the bucket hat. with the little bird hat that you drew, Chibi.
Wait, what?
The
Francis? No, that's not right. The
Francis
turtle guy.
Rockmore.
Oh, Jonathan.
Jonathan, there we go.
Oh,
I
right,
knew
yes.
it was something fancy sounding and also just
Sorry. That confused me
misplaced.
because Chibi also drew a character with an actual bucket hat.
Yeah.
So-
That's also what I was thinking of. I was like, how is that?
I forgot there was a style of hat called a bucket hat.
Yeah. So we've got Jonathan, who is a tamer result of the things that made the mistake. Because the mistake is basically at its center one of the old rulers who got obsessed with trying to prolong their own life. Well, I mean, they were all obsessed with trying to prolong their own life, but he prolonged it by just sort of absorbing other life forms, and then it got out of control. But one of the, and I don't know which one it would make more sense to keep it, probably to quote unquote be trying to control it, probably whoever's got control of the arena. One of the factions in the Flying City basically was like, right, that's terrifying, but we're just going to keep it in a closet just in case. Which, always works out well. Keeping
yeah,
horrible
definitely.
monstrosities in a closet, just in case.
Yeah, that always works out.
But yeah, I'm thinking, because if there's guerrilla warfare stuff going on, or less guerrilla warfare, just warfare stuff going on up in the Flying City, it would be sort of weird if literally no one up there could die ever. And if this has been going on for a couple of years, it just feels weird that absolutely no one would have noticed. So I don't think it's a no one can die and no one can be born, but there are definitely pockets of this thing refuses to die and is actively stealing from things that are alive to keep itself from dying, or actively running away from dying, like you've got with all the armors. They're just actively going, oh, death? Yeah, no, thank you, and then walking away quickly while trying to ignore it. And the thing I drew just sort of now looks like a weird toad.
Hello, sorry,
That makes sense to me. That's not everyone, not literally, nobody is dying, but more.
well, figuratively.
Yes. Yes.
And I was actually thinking, as far as how other areas may or may not be affected by this. So we said that the harbor is sort of the newest area, as it were, or the newest settlement. At the very least, there's nothing there explicitly that's old stuff. So I'm thinking maybe it's the harbor. If we do decide that the harbor needs to have there's some faction that's actions are also messing around with life and death there as well. I'm thinking that's where we've got the so with the harbor, we seem to have sort of this whole idea of it's sort of building into sort of an industrial revolution type harbor thing. And I'm thinking, okay, so industrial revolution, a couple of things that kicked that off are one, building mechanical objects, so stuff with iron, but also the addition to other fuel sources. Because, especially if you're dealing with ships, if you're not using wind and you're going so far that oars are no longer a good idea, you got to find some way to make the machine go. And in the real world, that was mostly oil. I'm thinking here the oil might be red goo.
Oh.
So the red goo that has some connection with the life or death. So basically, something happens. Someone essentially has cracked open a quote-unquote oil vein, as it were. But that's not like oil, sucking out life. So sort of with what you've got going on with the, now my brain is blanking, in FF7. Where we're using the life force of the planet as a power source. Hopefully that was all sensible.
I'm sorry, you turned into a robot for me.
Interestingly,
Did I turn into a robot for everyone else too?
The echo did come back again. I think it's gone now. But it came back as a robot, which was interesting.
Yeah, it was a bit disorienting.
Also, Frame Man decided to visit the stream. I think the internet is just having a funny at the moment.
And this is why I don't do live Zoom lectures. Okay, so rehashing again. So Harbor, we've got Industrial Revolution stuff going on. In the real world, Industrial Revolution, okay, we're moving now from boats that run on wind to boats that run on coal and then eventually oil. I'm thinking here, while they're working out and trying to figure out efficient power sources that isn't just catch the wind and hope it's going in the right direction type things, someone, I'm assuming more accidentally, because it's partially because of these two gentlemen down here messing around with things, struck oil, as it were, but the oil is the red blood pool type things. So we've got like what's going on in FF7, where people are sucking out the life force and using it as a power source, just at a smaller scale. Because they're mostly just using it to power boats. So I was thinking, if we have a group in the harbor that's directly connected to the life-death shenanigans, that might be an interesting
Okay, yeah. So there.
way to go about it. If we want to have that. For all we know, the harbor is the one place where there's no like life-death faction thing going on. All we have is the Mafia. Or it could be the Mafia what, like, they're making money by using this power source that's really, really efficient and effective, and that they just find by sticking buckets in this pool out back that they just sort of dug up.
I like the idea that we have a mafia in a game, and their undoing is not any of their illegal activities, it's irresponsible sourcing of energy.
Yeah.
Like, that is... Basically, it's got nothing to do with crimes or, doing horrible things to people. No, they were an ecological issue.
But
I mean, there's a lot of mafia-type characters where the reason why they end up in jail is something that's unrelated to their general illegal activities. Like, Al Capone, I think they finally arrested him for tax fraud.
Gotta do the paperwork,
Yeah.
That's the point. I need to do my taxes as well. Although my taxes largely consist of I didn't earn enough. Bye. But I still have to tell them that.
Yeah, bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy is... basically.
It's basically...
Yeah.
Yeah, that should swish. That should.
Please stop bureaucracy.
I mean, when it comes to paperwork basically exists as it is to make someone's life easier. It just might not be yours.
Yeah.
It's never yours.
Ooh. Look at this.
And
This
I'm trying
fancy
to
cape.
draw a
Friend.
mash of stuff for the mistake, but mostly it just looks like a really weird frog.
Well, we've learned something today. Frogs are nature's mistake.
No, no, they're not.
I have a frog. I found a frog in my garden the other day.
Oh,
Frog. We had a similar thing the other
Frogs
day.
are good. I
Went
was
out.
also reminded of the. Actually, let me see if I could find it because I don't know if any of you guys have seen this image.
Excuse me. One of my sinuses has been playing up for 2 weeks. And it finally gave me a respite this morning. I'm like, oh, brilliant. Finally, you can clear out. And now it's back to being annoying. It's like, oh, great. So I apologize for the amount I need to blow my nose or sneeze.
okay.
If you didn't hear me sneeze then, there's a reason I said that.
Oh, okay.
Didn't just come
That
out of
makes
nowhere.
sense.
Also, we are visited by the Echo Fairy again. I'm gonna have to draw the Echo Fairy. Let's draw the Echo Fairy. I mean,
Maybe
I guess
if you
it's
draw
just,
it, it'll go away.
I guess it just sort of looks like that, but its head is just like a megaphone. It's weird how it's variable, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and now scum. Who knows? Oh no, Christy's muted. See, now I feel
yeah,
bad for
I
pointing
just-
it out.
Is it
Oh,
gone?
hello, hello.
It's gone?
oh,
Is fairy gone?
seems to be gone.
Sounds
weird.
like it's gone.
Technology. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Chibi?
I was just gonna say that I spent like most of the week thinking about fame and fortune, and then only today I drew them.
Nice.
And I wanted to give one of them the hat with the little jingles because I thought that'd be fun. Because you know, kind of trickster vibes.
Yeah.
But they actually mostly came together because I didn't know what to draw. I wasn't feeling anything, and then I just was like, random scribbles. Let's start
Yeah.
with that. So I booted up like Jezza's RD app and gave me some random scribbles.
Oh, I didn't know. Didn't know there was a thing that did that.
Yeah, I mean, it has like all the other like, you can get a character, you can get, you know, specific body parts, but you can also just generate a random scribble.
I love playing that with my niece.
Oh.
A good app.
Oh, it's got 4 eyes. I like that.
Yeah, 4 eyes, 4 arms. I'm not happy with it yet, but I'll keep plucking at it.
No mouth yet. And I don't know if
Hmm.
that's on purpose or not, but it looks very spooky.
Yeah, I don't think it needs a mouth. Just needs this kind of like theme, like color.
It puts the
part.
ideas directly in your head. It doesn't need to say anything.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
What's the thing that generates stuff? Apparently, Jazza app. Jazza has an app.
Yeah, it's artist. Hold on. I
Oh,
have it on my phone.
Arty games? Arty
Arty
party?
games. Yes, Arty games.
I just saw the frog
I see y'all are going serious this week, and I'm going goofy as heck.
Good.
I mean, I just put a weird frog in the Discord, so you know.
And I've just
Very
drawn
serious times going on here.
parabolic foghorn fairy. So,
My goodness. That's a great frog. That's an AI frog, right?
this is okay. Here's the thing: why have we not seen a horror game where the enemies look like they're something from this sort of deep dream AI thing? Because it's a creepy visual.
Probably because Deep Dream is made by Google, and Google is trying to own everything.
Yeah, but it's just something about the visuals. Like, you don't need to use Deep Dream. You just need to use that as the inspiration for the art style. Also, fairy! There's bloody fairy. Gonna get an anti-fairy spray. I regret drawing it now. By the way, I'd like to stress I was not yelling at you, Christy. I apologize if that sounded like I was yelling at you. Just technology! Why is it inconsistent? This is the thing I don't understand. If it was like, if it just happened all the time, fair enough. But it just happens a bit and then goes away and then comes back. Okay. Question, Christy. Do you have a thing under the voice video thingamabob? There's a thing that says automatically determine input sensitivity. Do you have that ticked? If so, that might be it. If not, dunno. I feel bad again.
You know.
Oh, it's a catfish with legs. That's a horrifying thing to see in a cave.
Ooh, hello.
It is kind of terrifying, yeah.
That feels like something that you'd have to, like... I was about to say you have to attack it from behind so you don't poison yourself. But actually, looking at it now, if you do attack it from behind, it will poison.
Also, I'm not sure you want to see it from behind, on account of the behind.
Yeah.
It looks like a star. Or a moon, I guess.
Heart, stars, and horseshoes, globes, and blue moons.
What now?
Right, not everyone has that. Lucky Charms jingle. Don't worry about it. It's a cereal.
I have heard of these.
I have heard of these lucky of charms.
These are the luckiest of charms.
They're mostly well known for being half marshmallow.
Mooning. Yeah. Bam, bam.
know
Is
what
it
to talk
very
about.
Oh, hello.
Huh?
Hello, Christy.
Hello.
How is it? Who?
The echo is gone for now.
Yay.
Sorry if it sounds like I'm having a go at you. I don't intend to.
Nope.
Christy will take it very personally.
Ow!
Also, what's this?
It's the noise fairy.
Yeah, this is the noise fairy.
Ooh.
It has parabolic wings to capture the sound you make, and then a foghorn to send it back. And it's back again. Ow! Yeah, trying to work out why this isn't working. Should be working. I don't know. Not gonna pretend to know. Technology. Also death. Should specify what I'm actually drawing here. I had Oobs' area to make a boss for, and we already have 3 bosses for this area, and we don't really need more. Because it's probably an end game thing.
Yeah, I
And so-
don't think the Abyss has much in the way of like. I don't think it's an area that you can go to multiple times and you can just go around and fight things. I think pretty much the things you fight in the Abyss are Mr. Tubbs and life or death if you go along a route where you're pissing them off enough to have to deal with them.
Yeah, that sounds right.
For
I
clarity,
mean, there
this
might
is
be little annoying
limbo.
things that you have to fight off, but for the most part, it's those 3.
Yeah. This was one thing I did want to talk about, actually. It was, like, progression. Because, like, we start in the cave by a puddle of blood. We probably don't do the entire cave. We just got, like, a little bit of a cave and then maybe a boss at the end. And then we leave the cave and either emerge into the port or emerge somewhere where there's a person with a boat and they're like, oh, do you want a lift?
Yeah.
And then we go to the port, etc. And it's sort of, I guess, understood that Limbo is an end game place. We're not going to get there for a long time. Maybe not right at the end, but pretty far along the way. As would I'm. Part of me wants to say the Golden City is the same, but then we also have characters like Volric, who we're supposed to meet lots and lots of times throughout, so I don't know how that works.
I'm thinking when it comes to the Golden City, there's probably like different areas. I'm thinking with each one, with a lot of these actually, there's probably different areas you get to. So like in the forest, you don't get to the inside bit where all the weird tech is and whatever the heck is going on in there until later. But you can get to the areas where there's more normal people living and stuff like the Leaf Smith and the Moss Weaver earlier. So I'm thinking similarly with the Golden City, there are areas you can get to sort of on the outskirts earlier on, but you can't get more towards the center where like the Door Guardian is until much later. I'm thinking the Door Guardian, that area is something you only get into late game and only if you're saying, hey, I'm not helping these people with what they're doing one way or another. And then same with the Flying City. There are areas you can go to see what's going on with the fighting, but you don't get really far in to some of the worse areas until later on. So if we're... I'm guessing it also sort of depends. If we're viewing this as sort of a less linear game, it might be a thing... Or even if it is a linear game, it might be a thing where we hit each area once and then hit each area again and things are worse or weirder.
Yes, this is the sort of thing I thought would be nice to talk. Sort of where do you... Are we just having a sort of fully sort of open world exploration thing where we just go wherever we want, whenever we want, but then after we've sort of done each place, something unlocks, and then we have a specific sort of end game quest to go back to each place, or do we have like a more specific, not exactly place by place, but well, maybe place by place, but
That might work. I mean, there are games that have sort of a balancing out. Now, granted, some of the ones that I know of, the main part is linear and you go back for additional stuff. So like the 2018 God of War, as far as mainline game is concerned, it's fairly linear. But after a certain point, you can double back to areas for side quest mission things. And I don't know if the side quest missions really affect the end of the story. They just give you additional, they give you additional story bits, and they give you additional items and whatnot that might make the end game easier. But the end of the story is the same, regardless of if you do those side missions or not. So not quite the same as what we've got here.
It could be like you're missing like half of the game if you finish too early.
Or it could be, and this is sort of what you've got. Okay, so in SMT3, remember how I said there's a couple of different factions? You meet each of them before you really have to lock in and agree, or agree on one of them, or say no to all of them. So it could be that you hit each area once, and that sort of introduces the actors at play, as it were, except for life and death, because you're only sort of hearing bells every so often and hearing their voices at the start, and you have no idea what's going on with that. And then the second time around, now you've got more of a thing of like, okay, first time you hit each of these areas, you didn't have to, like, your actions didn't really lock you in on, yes, I'm following these people and going to help them complete their mission, or no, I'm not going to help these people complete their mission type thing. But the second time around, when you're visiting places, that's where it's more locked in. Are you helping the mafia with their secure power resources? Are you helping one of the factions in the floating city? Are you helping whatever's going on with the ruling class with the armors? Are you helping with whatever's going on with the forest? Or are you just sort of trying to get them all to just let go so life and death can go back to doing what they should be doing?
So multiple endings?
Yeah, that's sort of what we talked about last week, of there being multiple factions that you could sort of help or hinder. One of which being life and death. You can either help them out and do the mission that they made you for, or you can be totally oblivious to the mission that they made you for, or you can actively go against them. And if you actively go against them, they will be like, okay, fine, and then fight you.
They're not
They
mad,
may
it's
not.
pretty good.
They may not want to leave their domain because they're lawful neutral, but you are in the abyss, the void, whatever. You are in the void,
Limbo.
you're on their turf, so they're going to deal with you.
You came after them. What happens now is not their responsibility.
Yeah.
Also, I like the flowers that are sort of floating around death here.
Well, I'm trying to use the environment, which is mostly flowers, to be fair. I also like the idea that they sort of whoosh up the flowers from the ground, and as they go up, they sort of decay and turn into just sort of rotten petals and sharp stems and stuff, and then they throw them at you in like a hail.
Ooh, impaled by a sharp stick. That's not fun.
Hail of thorns. Do poppies have thorns? They do in this world.
I mean, wild roses look oddly similar in flower type to poppies, so, I mean, it could also be... I mean, I know Oob said specifically poppies, because poppies are connected to, like, dream worlds and whatnot, but...
Also, I would not put it past the abilities of death to turn one flower into another.
There is that as well.
I think
And
that's something we
also-
could accept.
And
I mean,
also,
that's-
this is a fantasy
that's
universe.
better
Who's to
than
say that
life
poppies in this world don't have thorns?
So what are you saying, Chib?
if death can turn flowers into other flowers, then life probably can.
Yeah, I'm still, because the only real idea I had for this, apart from, you fight Mr. Tubbs as an angry sort of leopardy pumery thing before you realise it's also a cute cat, and they sort of test you when you first enter. They are the sort of guardian, as it were, and then it turns into a cat, and they're like, "You did a good job," and then plod off and say hello to life and death. But we have the idea of the ending where you actively go after life and death, that you would fight both of them. And I wanted them to be different. My original idea was that death would be a kind of aggressive, fast, feral fight, and life would be a very sort of dignified, magical sort of thing. And then I realized it would actually be the other way around. That death is the patient one, and life is the erratic one. So I've now got to work out how life fights erratically.
It's a much worse barrier bowl. Just runs right at you, and you're like, oh no.
Also, we've got a frog in a pot. Frog in pot.
Well, I don't know about thorns, but poppies do seem to have just fuzzy bits all down their stems, so...
They can turn into thorns, it's fine.
Yeah. It's a fantasy RPG fight. Anything goes here.
Anything.
Oh, and it's got its little legs sticking out of the pot.
They're wearing it like dungarees.
He's got a pants on. Except it's a flower pot.
Nope, can't think of a flower pot. Bottomware. Pun. Bottomware? Has anyone ever said the word bottomware before?
Bottomware?
Bottomware. I don't know. I think it's because the other day I was thinking about underwear. I was like, we don't really say outerwear anymore. Or, like, overwear. Where the underwear is stuck. But I guess we have like an outfitter. Would you have an underfitter? Is somebody who makes underwear an underfitter?
I don't know. But also the only people the only things I can think of where it's like we're making custom undergarments are usually bras, because bra fitting
It's tricky.
is magic, as far as I can tell.
Oh, is there an entire sect of wizards whose entire job is bra fitting?
Yes.
I mean, they're probably also just generally wizards for women's clothing, because if you look at sizes in women's clothing, it doesn't make any sense.
There's a quest in the game where you help invent pockets.
Specifically pockets in women's clothes, yeah.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, the other one with that has more to do with lingerie, but even then, some of that is less fitted and more just buy the lingerie and hope it fits.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I can't think of too many situations where you've got people explicitly making the bottom end of things to fit a specific person. I know of companies and individuals that make undergarments for the bottom half fit certain needs. Like, there's at least a couple of companies that make material where it's like this material is made in such a way that it'll absorb so much fluid without staining all the rest of your clothes, but
Well,
that's
what?
not really tailoring. That's just making a material that absorbs liquid.
Well, if you use a material to create clothing, I guess that's tailoring. Doesn't matter what the material is. Practical or aesthetic, it's all tailoring.
Yeah, but you're not tailoring it for individuals, I guess I should say. Like, it's still being made for general sizes, and then you find the size that fits you.
Right. So I guess the question is tailoring. Can you mass market tailor? Is that a tailor or is that? I don't know. This always happens in the VO streams. we go on some weird tangent. We start talking about the definition of an underwear tailor.
It happens.
Would we prefer this or dice?
I don't know.
I mean, we could start talking about Divergent series and confuse everyone, but
No.
The sum of the natural numbers is not minus a 12th. Drives me nuts. Sorry. I know where the definition comes from, and I like it. And I'm allowed to not like it.
yeah, well, I have a feeling like if I remember that thought experiment correctly, my brain almost said proof, but that's definitely not a proof. The point of that thought experiment is to go, hey, here's what happens when you do these things to things that you shouldn't be doing them to. You get things that are very obviously nonsense.
The problem is that you can perfectly rigorously mathematically define it. Unfortunately, in order to do so, you have to ignore the other perfectly rigorous mathematical definition, which is much more useful, which is how we normally do series. You can just create a looser definition of it, and then maybe that's useful for someone somewhere. You never know. People laughed at non-Euclidean geometry for a while, and then Einstein came along and said, "Oh, actually, that's how the universe works." So, you never know. Maybe maybe the sum of all of the positive numbers is minus a 12th in some weird quantum physics way.
No, it isn't.
Well, thank you for being on my side at least, but
I mean, it can also be any other number if you manipulate it enough. That's sort of the point.
yeah.
Because at another part of the video, they could just stopped and said, oh, it's negative 1/6.
But the negative 12th one can come from essentially like a complex analytic continuation of the Riemann zeta function or something. I don't know. I don't do number theory, but there is a way minus a 12th is actually linked. More specifically, not much more specifically, still incorrectly according to proper definitions. But anyway, we talked about maths again. There's enough of that.
No more maths.
No more maths. I should add a thing to chat where if exclamation mark maths and just like a foghorn sounds or something. It's like, no, bad mathematicians.
I mean, we've already got the locked commands and text-to-speech for bringing up noises on the chat, so...
Oh, I still haven't got around to doing Badum Tish. That's another one I wanted to do. I've been wanting to do that ever since I did the, made the Badum Tish for the Call of Cthulhu highlights. Oh, that's what I was going to do today. I was going to do timestamps for the Hitman highlights. And I didn't.
So many things, so little time.
Oh god. Don't, I made a list recently. That's a bad thing to do. I could get this done if I lived twice as long as my normal life expectancy. Hooray! Don't make bazillions of plans. Find plans you like and go, ooh, let's do that. Have fun.
Nothing wrong with having multiple projects, and there's nothing wrong with never finishing a project.
Oh yeah. Also, there's nothing wrong with finishing a project reasonably and not perfectly. Sometimes exploring multiple ideas is better than exploring one idea to absolute perfection. Or as close as you're gonna get.
So there's a phrase that I've picked up, and I don't remember exactly where it came from initially, but I picked it up from one of my mentors. Perfect is the enemy of the good. And I think it was brought up in a basically in the context of like policy type thing when creating policies for things.
Alright, yeah.
Like you're like making something perfect is going to like making it so that everything done here is done perfectly is going to mean that nothing gets done well. Like if you're sitting here going and oh, this thing that isn't actually broken, we're going to try and perfect it. Okay, cool. In attempting to perfect it, you've made it so that it's not actually doing what we need it to do.
Anyway, Project Via.
Project Via! Hey, Project Via falls under that category. It's one of those things I wanted to do that also takes up time, which means I can't do all the other things I want to do. Like anything would. Because I'm somehow so bad with time that I can't work out that, oh, doing 20 things at once, that's reasonable. But Project Via, eh?
Project Via.
Project Via. We're about halfway through the stream. Do we want to spin wheels?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Let's get the wheels up. Let's do that. Let's do the thing. Have we considered just once doing the thing?
And stream is playing an ad for me.
Yay!
Yay.
Wheel. Okay, so I would like to reiterate that characters and enemies have 4 slots on the wheel. I think we've had 3 of each. So we should be unlikely to land on characters and enemies. There are other things on there, like flora and fauna, quests, lore, puzzles, weapons, items, MacGuffins, locations. There's loads of things we could get, theoretically.
Theoretically.
I feel like if you use a system like this again, you need to do what, like, iTunes did and make your randomizer less random.
Yes, yeah. As soon as you said iTunes, I was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Keep track of the slot that I've chosen, but also keep track of whatever the last prompt was. And make sure there's no overlap between either. Yeah. We'll see. If I change it now, then I'm going to have to reset all the things anyway. So that's whatever it is. I'm going to spin the wheel. Spin! Please, not characters or enemies. It's not! It's items!
Ooh.
Items. Things the character can pick up and use. I'm immediately thinking of the thing we were talking about a few weeks ago, where the character makes meals. So ingredients for food. That'd be cool. Yeah. So in terms of places, Chib, you have the viaduct. So
Ooh.
merchant fun, birds, anything you'll find in a sewer. I have the world. So
Oh, is this
luck.
also key item? Oh no, key is the key items. Okay.
no, yeah. I think key is MacGuffin. I think.
Oh.
So you could do a MacGuffin if you like. I'm not. Again, these are loose prompts. Yeah. So Chibi has viaduct. Dark gets Chib's cave. Christy, you have the floating city. So whatever the mistake drops, don't look at it too closely. Also bucket hats. Ragdoll, you have the harbour. So all sorts of things you could buy in and around that, or fish, or what have you. Plamps can have wizard nonsense. Lewis gets the abyss. Kiro, you have the golden city. Fun items in the golden city. Also, feel free to do things that connect to items, like quests that for items, or items that a particular character might have or drop or what have you. Oobs has Kiro's Forest. Everybody gets Limbo, and as I said, I get the world because because I deserve the world.
You do. Yes.
Now, I deserve non-specific prompts. Specific. I deserve the inability to speak as well. Yeah, I set this thing up so that I'd get a specific prompt, and then if anyone else wanted to use it, that'd be great. And then here's me getting nothing specific. How dare.
I mean, you could always work on the one that everyone has.
Which is
You
Limbo.
are part of everyone.
Yeah, but that's Limbo, and there's basically a world full of poppies. I can draw a poppy.
Maybe you get one singular poppy.
Maybe. That's what you get for killing life and death. There's no real reward. It's just a poppy. I also imagine you don't kill them. You just, maybe destroy their corporeal form or something. You can't kill life and death.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It wasn't characters or enemies.
Yay!
It was something far more mundane.
Items.
Items, again, it's items or, things connected to items. Items are used for things. We could also start to think about, like, what fun items could we have that the character can use?
My first thought, as soon as you said fire duck, was a duck whistle.
Yes.
I mean, we do have a duck cult and a duck cult, so
Yeah.
you for all you know, there probably is some side quest where you help out the guy from the duck cult and he gives you a whistle to summon him to your aid, whether it works or not.
Riding a giant duck. Yeah, that is making me think, actually. I can't remember what game it is. What Final Fantasy... It's in a Final Fantasy game. It's 6? I can't remember. There you can get a Chocobo Whistle. And when you use it at certain places, just a massive Chocobo, just like big spherical Chocobo, just comes down and basically acts as a storage for you. Just takes items. I don't know why they made it a massive Chocobo, but it's just funny. You whistle and it's like, big Chocobo. I like the idea that it's like that, but with a duck.
Yeah, you just summon a duck. That's what this whistle does.
Summon a massive duck, why not?
Oh, have you ever seen those duck whistles that look like duck bills?
I probably have, but
Oh, that one's got a rubber duck on the end.
yeah.
That one's shaped like a duck. Here we go.
Those items also include like armor and stuff, or is that, a different prompt on the wheel?
There is a prompt for weapons. There is not a prompt for armor. But again, if you want to draw a weapon, go ahead. It's like an item is an item. It technically covers also it covers MacGuffins and weapons and also every possibility that doesn't involve actually paying attention to the prompt, because you're welcome to do that. What is that? Oh, I see. Okay, right. So it's I'm about to show it on stream, but I've realised we still have the wheels up. Let's fix that. Whoops. You just had the wheels on screen for 20 minutes. Okay, so this is a duck whistle thing. I thought it was like a weird flip-flop for a second. Look, it's plastic. A crock before the holes have been drilled out.
No, that's a duckbill whistle.
Oh. Good to know. Should specify because it's tradition. Whoops, it's tradition at this point, and also contractually obliged. The music in the background that you're hearing is courtesy of Adrian von Ziegler. Why not go to adrianvonziegler.com? I don't know what his website is, but you should support him. He's got loads of music. He makes music way quicker than anyone I've seen ever. And I follow Louis Zong, so who's also released an album recently, which is very good. I also don't know whether to pronounce his last name Zong or Zhong. I don't know, but he's good.
Chibi, I like this giant beetle that you've made pulling the cart because that implies either that Fame and Fortune are incredibly small, or that beetle is incredibly large.
The latter one, but either way is good.
I imagine they can change that size
either way
as well.
is good.
Big beetle. Looks nice. Everything has a price. That's the catchphrase, I guess. I forgot to mention that. That was also in the original sketch. Fame and Fortune Enterprises, because everything has a price.
Yeah. I just like that as a tagline for that, because it sounds vaguely sinister.
It's very sinister. Also, I haven't looked at Frog Friend for a while. Look at them. They hide in the pot. Evil Wizard's former companion frog. Ooh.
Ooh.
I haven't been looking around as much as I should. There's a telescope. Or at least some sort of telescopic cylindrical object. Also, I keep saying telescope as if anyone knows what I mean when I say... you could probably guess that I'm intending to say telescope, but telescope in particular is a thing. It's not a thing, it's a joke.
I mean, jokes are things.
That is technically correct. The best kind of correct. Also, Duck Whistle. Boom. There's Chibi's work's done for the week. Look at that.
Yeah, that was it. My
Perfect.
work here is done.
See, for me, I kind of added this with the sort of feeling of like making one of those nice sort of item icons that you get in these games, like in Dark Souls, where they're all like painterly and stuff like that. I always like the idea of doing stuff like that, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that. And now I'm like, what? I don't have anything specific. Now.
Just
I don't know,
pull
make a
stuff
world lore
from all
item.
the areas.
I guess I could do a painting of a thorny poppy.
Yeah.
Like you know.
I mean, but also since you have everywhere, you could do things that pop up in lots of locations. So, like, if we've got the whole idea of there are things that you can only buy in certain areas, like the Leaf Smith is the only place where you can get the leaf specific weapons. But if there's some items that are just you can find them anywhere.
I mean, you could
So, like generic potion.
You could design you could design this world's healing item, whatever that may be. Other than
Design our Estus.
Oh no, that's pressure. That's pressure.
Or design more things you can buy off the wizards or something.
Does the Estus have anything to do with the puddle of blood?
Probably.
I mean, maybe?
Maybe.
Crimson. I was about to say Crimson Flask. That's Elden Ring. Wait, hang on.
Maybe you get high off of poppies and then your health improves. Just eat a lot of poppy seed bagels.
I need to check
Considering
something.
this world also has food, I imagine like whatever we get from the blood pool is less like a healing item and more like increases your health bar permanently.
Ah, right, yeah.
Health upgrade.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, there's
permanent health
probably
upgrade.
if we've got a system where you die and you come back, we've probably got some healing items that are regenerative and some that are just single use.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've just realized I've remembered that Sultan Sanctuary has a red flask as a healing item as well. So
It's almost as if red is a color that's associated with vitality because of blood.
What about instead of a flask, it's just a handful of blood?
Just draw a hand. You're making me paint a hand. How dare you?
A cup of blood.
Just a solo cup just sitting in your backpack, just full of blood. It's a red cup with red stuff in it.
I don't know, the artist in me is like, can't have a red cup with red stuff in it.
Just
No
a nice
contrast.
teacup of blood.
Fine, child, fine.
I mean, black
brain was
tea is
gonna go
usually sort of a reddish color. This is just more red.
A soup bowl of blood. I'm just trying to think of weird containers.
It's just saucepan where you drink it with a ladle. A
No, it's
ladle
tomato
of blood.
soup. You've just got a can of tomato soup in your backpack.
Are you carrying your blood ladle around with you?
I love the implication that for like most of the game you just find some random tomato soup around. Once it like, it gets revealed in plot that, you've been like regenerating, and then the tomato soup just turns to a pot of blood.
Yeah.
In your inventory as the description.
Yeah, it could be like, ferrous. It could be called ferrous soup or something like that until you know what it is. Because it's sort of vaguely irony taste.
That is actually interesting and sort of creepy. I like it.
Okay, ferrous soup. That's. If we have whatever our general healing item is, we have ferrous soup, full health upgrade, or health bar increase.
Do we want to have a stamina increase as well? That's a similarly, oh no, what is this type
Do we have
item?
stamina? It's difficult to know what to increase when we don't know what the mechanics are.
Yeah, that is true. But like a lot of action-y games, especially more recent ones, do have some sort of stamina, even if they aren't trying to pull the sort of more Dark Souls type formula. So like God of War has a stamina bar, Breath of the Wild, now you have a stamina bar.
Yeah, a lot of games have stamina bars, so like, I mean,
like there's usually either a stamina bar or you can only put so many moves into one combo, and then you have to stop for a couple seconds before you can start the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't really thought too much about how combat works in this.
No.
Mainly because, at no point are we going to actually program and implement how combat works in this. So it's much more interesting to think about stories. But it's something to discuss.
I mean, I think with what we've discussed so far, it definitely lends itself more to the action RPG than the turn-based RPG or tactics RPG type thing.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well,
every
based on
time I'm like trying to imagine like what combat would look like, it's going towards like that Storzy kind of thing, like not fully top down, but like kind of top down-ish, third person, like you're a small little sprite and just flinging yourself all over the place as you attack, kind of thing. That's kind of what I've been generally imagining whenever I think of this game.
Oh god, that does mean like the weird jumping puzzles in the viaduct are going to be a bloody nightmare.
Oh, absolutely, yes, they are the worst.
Although I say that, even though the barrier boars that I designed are semi-based off of a rock boar that shows up in a game that's both a tactics RPG and turn-based RPG. Yes, it does make sense for me to say that it's both.
Well, I mean, I don't see how those two would not overlap, or would overlap. I don't not see how those unto would not overlap.
What?
Precisely.
And also a dungeon crawler. It's all three.
But yeah, wouldn't tactics games usually turn-based, right? Or I guess you've got real-time strategy and things.
Usually you've got a board and you're moving stuff around.
I quite liked, there was a game I was vaguely working on in the background of stuff that I may turn into a stream thing after Project Via. But there were various ideas that I thought would be good in a game that I have never seen before, and I was like, okay, let's try and build this up a little bit. And I made a demo, and I was messing around. And one of the principles behind it was playing the old Final Fantasy games and thinking this system, this sort of active time battle system that they had, I think it has potential, but the way it was implemented back then was limited by technology or scope or vision or whatever. Games have come a long way, but I think no one's really making that games with that mechanic anymore, and I feel like that was a shame. But what was interesting is that as I was developing it and implementing new ideas and coming up with things that would work and be fun, I basically just reinvented turn-based tactical stuff. So maybe the active time battle wasn't very good because I ended up just throwing it away. So yeah, I'm assuming it's not that. Well, it's not action anyway. This is an action adventure game is the premise for this. So it's basically the only prompt. Well, it's not the only prompt. We would literally make a prompt every week, but you know what I mean. It's the only global prompt.
Yeah. Well, also in the fact that it's fantasy based. Did we start with the idea of it fantasy based, or did we just sort of roll into that?
Yeah, I think I'm not entirely sure I specified. But at the same time, we all seem to be on the same page. So, well, saying that, you know, Lewis and Darks could very easily have fitted into a sci-fi one. So
yeah. I mean, I think if you like, I think maybe apart from like the wizards, maybe you could have like turned it fully into a sci-fi, or at least have some very like sci-fi elements.
yeah,
really
Kiro's area's got sci-fi in it as well. A lot of fantasies do have a bit of sci-fi, so because
I mean, if you're not dealing with like, if the sci-fi element is just we're using science, and depending on the sci-fi you're dealing with, like there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, I guess there's a distinction to be made between science fiction and technological fantasy. Science fiction.
Because then you've got stuff like Star Wars, which is wizards in space.
Star Wars is a space vaguely futuristic, even though it's set a long time ago. fantasy, whereas Star Trek would be a science fiction because they try and base things on science where possible. But in a fictitious
well, and also
way.
there's a different level of most science fiction is being, well, okay, assuming that it's like what I think of as science fiction and not just people doing, like, being up their own ass about it. There's usually some sort of commentary going on.
It's a common arena for it, yeah. Some allegory.
And usually the ones where it's like, oh yes, this is good, are like doing that commentary, and the ones where I just are like, I experience it and it's like, well, that was a waste of time, are ones that either are not or have missed the point. So like some of the worst cyberpunk type stories I've ever interacted with are ones that don't understand why cyberpunk is a thing.
Oh, they think, this is cool technology and neat clothes and neon lights. Hooray.
Yeah, essentially.
They get
you
the
can
cyber, they don't get the punk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfectly succinct. They get the cyber, they don't get the punk. I know there is seems to be a disproportionate ratio of conversations that we have where me and Ragdoll are present, where what's his name? Todd in the Shadows gets brought up. But that does remind me there was an album by Billy Idol called Cyberpunk, which very much was getting the cyber and not the punk. Which is weird because he was supposed to be punk. But I don't think anyone actually thought he was punk. Anyway, if you want a good example of that, this weird cyberpunk car crash album. Look that up. I'm assuming any of you know who Billy Idol is.
I mean, I probably do, but also I'm terrible at remembering names, especially when it comes to famous people.
He was probably most famous for Nice Day for a White Wedding. Nice Day for a White Wedding. But basically he was like the first pop punk. If that makes sense. He had like the style and the kind of some of the musical sensibilities, but was very clearly just making pop. And yeah, he decided, you know, in the 80s, this cyberpunk is cool. Let's do cyberpunk album. Called Cyberpunk. And it was bad.
I mean, yeah, because cyber but not punk.
Yep.
That's what happens.
Oh yeah, I recognize his face. Can't
Do
say
you
I've
recognize-
really listened to much in the way of
Recognize
his
his
music,
hair.
but yeah, I recognize his face.
You know what's interesting? This is after many attempts at trying to write music for Project VR, I'm now actually listening to the Adrian von Ziegler music. God, it's simple. It's really simple. Am I overcomplicating things? Probably.
I mean, potentially, but also a lot of the styles he's emulating sort of have to be simple. Because a lot of the stuff, it's like, okay, this is designed to be played on an instrument, maybe two.
That was the thing during the last stream that I did, the musical stream. Was it Miss who said, next time we do a music stream, we're going to force you to use only 3 instruments or something. So I'm just always, let's add this, and then this, and then this.
I mean, that's not a bad challenge, because, yeah, like I said, with the Celtic music stuff especially, a lot of that stuff is like, okay, you have a string instrument and a flute, and that's about it.
I mean, because it, all stems from like folk music, it is like generally whatever people had available, and that's
which
not much.
was usually a string instrument and some type of flute, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Or some type of air quote flute, end air quote.
Or, kind of like not really a drum, but kind of like, someone tapping their hands on the table. Like,
Yeah,
the,
a percussive element of some description.
yeah, but that's usually where it stops.
Yeah, you don't usually have orchestras available if you're just doing folk music.
Most people don't have an entire orchestra and hanging around in their garage,
And actually, thinking about it, the main folk musics I can think of that have more than just string instrument type of flute thing and single percussion instrument, it's usually multiple percussion instruments, but the percussion instruments are things we found in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why washboards are used to make music. Because most people had one, and there's a lot of interesting parts on it that you can make different sounds.
Most people had one. There's a lot of interesting parts, and it's very easy to learn.
Yeah. So maybe you are making it too complicated.
Probably. Maybe what I should do is I say, hey, I'm making music for your area. What instruments do you want? And then limit myself to that.
I mean, I'm sort of tempted to pick 3 instruments that are just wild and wildly different from each other. Just
You go for it. You got the wizards. I can do a lot with that.
Yeah.
Might also help if you because I don't know what instruments you have access to.
Generally assume I can find something approximating whatever you give me.
Okay.
You'd be surprised how much free stuff there is out there that will do a good job. That is one thing I do want to do, actually, is I want to make... I was thinking of doing like the same thing I did for Dark Souls 1 for Dark Souls 2, where I do music over the opening cutscene, but I was considering doing it with only free instruments. Because you can. And I feel like I want to... Whenever I do a creative thing, I always want to try and get people excited to do it themselves, and whenever I do the musical stuff, I tend to just automatically jump on the things I paid a lot of money for because I paid a lot of money for them and I want to use them. But there are so many good ways to just sort of get into it, and it's loads of free stuff. There's a website called Piano Book. It's just all free stuff. They've recently just reached their 1000th instrument on there. It's like user submitted stuff, and there's just loads. Decent Sampler has loads of stuff. Sorry, I'm gonna stop going on. If you want an orchestra, BBC Discover, that's free. The Alpine Orchestra is also free. Anywho, point being, you can get a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of nice stuff that's not orchestral as well. Oh, sorry, Christy. So every time, apparently we all sound like robots to Christy, so Christy will remain muted. I apologize now.
We need to do something to figure out what's up with Mike.
We need to help Christy.
Yes.
Let us help Christy, release Christy from the jaws of Apple. And their weird tech.
I mean, I would have said at one point, an easy fix for we've got echo going on is to find some headphones, but
Well, that didn't work
Apple.
before, right? Like, Christy did try something like that, and that had another problem.
Yeah.
Again, technomology. Ooh, look at that.
Technology.
I'm assuming that's a kind of necklace thing, but all me with my paranoid brain is just going to think about what happens if you fall over. You're just going to get like lots of dents in your chest.
Good thing you don't have to wear it then.
Yeah. I get very paranoid about things. What would happen if I fell over right now?
That looks like
I never move while drinking because I think, what would this thing do to my face if I fell forwards right now?
I
Very
mean,
That
paranoid.
that
looks
is
like something you
fair.
would get at like a like just a shop. Just like here's the shop for the tourists. Here, go
Oh.
home and
Souvenir merchant on the viaduct. That's definitely a thing.
Absolutely.
In 2023, you should get good internet. Yes, you have tried headphones and sound issues did not get better. How does... Not even going to begin to try and understand. Well, fingers crossed. Things should
Christy,
sort
I'm just gonna
themselves out.
shake my fist at your technology.
Yes.
Not you, your technology specifically.
Ooh, the quest of the broken spyglass. Nice. I also like it when telescopes are called spyglasses. That's just a much cooler name. In the same way that mirrors should be called looking glasses.
Yeah, that's fair.
I remember hearing about this. Alice's Adventures Through the Looking Glass. I was like, ooh, what's a looking glass? Sounds magical. It's a mirror. Alice's Adventures in the Mirror didn't sell as well.
No, that's fair.
I think the harbor just has a lot of really, for lack of a better word, just sort of normal items. Because I figure there's a lot of like little shops there.
Bric-a-brac.
So you've just got people who are just selling things that have been shipped in.
Ooh,
Although
I have an
actually,
idea.
if stuff that's being shipped in, that could also be an excuse to have some weird items.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there might be a
Also-
shop there that just sells items, and you never know what you're gonna get. They don't know what you're gonna get.
Suspicious / illegal items.
Contraband.
Contraband. You have the mafia. I keep.
That is true.
I'm sorry, I keep making that area about the mafia. That started with me. I'm so sorry, but it's so part of it now, so I feel like I had to mention it.
I mean, Port Town having a seedy underbelly makes sense.
Port belly.
Let's see, what's an interesting thing?
It's
that you could possibly
honestly the same reason why I keep making the viaduct about ducks.
Kira says, never apologize.
I will.
She just won't mean it.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't stop me from doing it again, but I will apologize for it.
Apologizing is easy.
I have committed crimes, and I will commit more crimes.
Yeah. I will definitely keep committing crimes, that's for sure.
All caps, Kiro says, don't. Don't apologize. Also, I could have sworn you spelled apologize wrong there, but it just turns out that apologize doesn't look right in all caps. You did spell it right. My brain just went, that's wrong. Oh wait, hang on, maybe we spell apologize with an S, not a Z.
Probably.
That might be it.
I mean, I have never once spelled apologize correctly the first time around while trying to type it into a thing.
Hmm.
And some software are better than others at trying to determine what the word actually should be spelled. For example, on my phone, the autocorrect never knows how to fix it.
Oh. It should know better. It should apologize at once.
I just got a really stupid idea. Just because we were talking about the fucking tourist gift shop merchant of the viaduct, and I'm just imagining that an item you can get is just one of those I visited the viaduct and all I got was this t-shirt kind of thing. Just all the very stupid merch.
I mean, I like me some good joke items. There's in Kingdom Hearts Days, you've got some joke weapons you can buy that are actually, I think there's like 2 sets of joke weapons, one that are bad, one that's bad, one that's actually pretty decent. And you can just buy joke weapons to use. And one of them is like a pizza.
Nice.
And one of them is a trumpet, I think. And a claymore that's got a rabbit head on it.
I've just absolutely not done anything to do with items, and I'm just still drawing life.
And that's good.
I mean, who doesn't like a little feral life?
That I feel like I've been spending too much time on the internet because I just imagine who doesn't like a little feral life. I imagined being written in impact font over a picture of a raccoon and posted on Tumblr.
Yeah, that works. Ooh, you know what might be interesting to find at a stall where it's a random items show up and you get what you get? A puzzle box.
Oh. Puzzles is on the wheel as a prompt, so we'll get it after we've gotten all of the characters and enemies.
Yeah. You know, when there's nothing else left to do. That's when we'll get that one.
I'm thinking this is just. I don't even know if we want to if there'd be anything inside the puzzle box. It's just a puzzle box. But it could be that there's like, it's a puzzle box. Figure out how to open the puzzle box, and you get an interesting item. Box. I don't know, like an amulet or something. The merchant has no idea what it is. It's just a puzzle box. It just came in on the boats.
Viaduct gift shoppy. Yeah, so one thing I was thinking of when you were talking about weird items in the harbour, that made me think there's a character in Final Fantasy IX who basically just collects these sort of like rare items, and they're like, I don't care about anything else, find these cool things for me, and if you do, I will give you my riches. So maybe there could just be like these little collectible things, which, as far as anyone else is concerned, is whatever, it's just worthless, but they're like, no, gimme! They could, I think they're called Stellatio coins in 9. They're like, there's a coin with one for each of the star signs, and you just find them hidden throughout the game. Hidden collectibles.
Love a good coin collectible that serves no other purpose.
I think she is also a duck.
Good for her.
I think I'm right inside. I'm gonna look this up. Not a duck, she's a pigeon. My mistake.
I mean, it's still a bird.
I don't have this concept art. I need to save this concept art. Why don't I have this concept art? I have a folder in my computer which is just all of the Final Fantasy IX concept art, and I do not recognize seeing this, so I'm going to save it. I got a bit obsessed with all of the Final Fantasy IX concept art, which is where Avonvale came from. I will show it on stream in a second. Characters, NPCs. Do I really not have this? How do I not have this? Spent a long time getting all of this. Do not have noble pigeon.
Dare you.
There.
Absolutely
That's-
dare you.
Queen Stella. Cool dress as well. Anywho. Burb.
I like how in the concept art they went through the trouble of designing her feet, despite the fact that it's going to be covered by her dress.
She doesn't even move. She's sat on a chair the entire time. She doesn't have a walk cycle. But this is what I love. There is so much like care put into the sort of designs of the characters. This is what made me just sort of fall in love with the world when I played it recently. I say recently, a couple of years ago. And just like there are so many characters that they didn't have to be as as interestingly designed as they are, because they're just whatever they're characters. They could have just been a person in a chair. But no, they made like a pigeon noble who looks really cool, and the hair is made of feathers, and it's cool.
Cool.
And I wanted more of that, so I made Avonvale. I'll do another. It's been a while since I've done an Avonvale character video. I'll do that. Pigeons. Problem is, the only ideas I have for characters at the moment for Avonvale are a platoon of coconuts, who just go around helping people. No one knows what they do or why they do it. They just turn up, and if you're struggling with something, they're like, they just help you, and then leave.
Turn up. I thought they were coconuts.
They're just coconuts. They just do that. And also a sentient swirl of paint, who was made by an artist one day, and it's just a sentient swirl of paint. And when they talk to you, they will approximate the way you look in blobs of paint in the air, inspired by the color homunculi that I make whenever I draw characters. So I'm making them real. My color homunculi are canonical.
Yes. Good.
Okay, so we do joke about the container that this red liquid would come in, but presumably these pools of red liquid would just be around. They would be in any zone. So I can't really think of any specific container based on the environment. It would have to be something the character would have.
Yeah. What would be a
Maybe
fun...
it's something where you have a container, you go like, oh, pick up more of it and then drink it. It's like, oh, tomato juice. Let me pick it off the ground and drink it. And the player's just kind of like, what?
I mean, it's probably one of those things where, like, for the first time, it gives you, like, a prompt to, like, put it in a container. And you're just like, yeah, sure, I'll take the fucking... I'll pick up the fucking brown soup. And then your character automatically drinks it, and you're just like, what the... what? Hold on. Why are we drinking dirt soup?
Love it when a character does something that you wouldn't. He's like, I understand this prompt, yes. No, that's not what I meant.
Don't drink the dirt soup.
This has very much passed the 5-second rule.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you realize that it's like, it gives you like extra health, and so the next time you just immediately go like, oh, dirt soup. Let's find the container.
Does it have a downside?
Hmm.
Is there a hidden downside that you have to notice?
I mean, it might be one of those things where, since you're connected to life and death, just getting a little bit more of it in you makes you stronger. But it is sort of the question of, okay, are they supplying pools? Because it's not going to be one of those things where you can just drink more and more dirt soup off of the same pool.
No.
Yeah.
Dirt soup is one time only.
Yeah, one time only. And then the pool is gone. So it might be that every so often life and death are just kind of like poke up the little stuff for you to grab so that you survive longer. Try and help you out without like directly helping to fix things, because again, lawful neutral. But fuck it, they made you, so you know.
We've got to put this blood somewhere, so we might as well put it directly in your path where you'll get it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, also, like, I imagine they didn't expect you to drink it, and then they were like, "Oh, I guess."
Okay, well, this one's turning out a bit weird.
I guess you could drink it, eat it.
And there's just like when you eventually get to the point in the game where you sort of meet them, you have this conversation about the flow of life and death is interrupted, and we need to do so on and so forth, and you get all the information and whatnot. And if you did drink the blood over the course of the game, just as you leave, like, life puts a hand on your shoulder and is like, "Why did you drink that?" Just a quick question before you go.
You maybe need to stop just drinking things off of the ground.
Just life and death being parents over the feral child that is the player character.
I mean, is it really an RPG if you aren't being just the most feral being in existence?
And true. That is true.
Or at least have the option to be the most feral being in existence.
Yeah. I do love it that, like, if you're... I'm now imagining that, like, if you are... there's probably, like, an area where you're around someone when you find the dirt soup. And then you do that, and they just look at you like, what? Just people finding it very strange. Everyone in this game finds it very strange that you drink the dirt soup.
If the mafia is using the red like the red blood stuff as a potential power source. It's just kind of like it's sort of like going to the gas station and watching someone just put the hose to their mouth and start drinking the petrol, and it's like,
yeah,
they are very concerned with you.
Every location in the game, every zone has one of these sort of sources of the red liquid, and in the harbor it is you siphon it out of an engine.
Yeah. Get it right of an engine, and also there's definitely like a mafia member around who's now just very concerned. Like somewhat impressed. Like impressed in a concerned way. Because it is the equivalent of someone just chugging down some gasoline and surviving. Which I would be very concerned and somewhat impressed with, but in a concerned way.
Yeah, that's not really something people do.
No.
Hey kids, don't chug petrol. It's not.
Yeah,
just
don't do that.
Or
Also,
gasoline,
don't put it in
whatever it's
plastic bags.
yeah, that. Is that a thing?
There are some people who are dumb enough to try and do that. I guess they think that because plastic containers exist for moving around small quantities of it, that they can just put it in a plastic bag,
Like, I don't
not
know an awful
knowing
lot.
that they're not made the same way. People are not smart sometimes.
People are people.
Yeah, they sure are.
The people are people. Have you heard, as a complete non-tangent here, have you heard the new Muse song? It's called The Will
I
of the
don't think so.
People. And I'm pointing it out for two reasons. One, it has the incredibly embarrassing thing in it, where they repeat the phrase "the will of the people" all the way through, except one time, if you listen carefully, they say "the will of the sheeple." Smart.
Oh, that's so
Grown.
cringy.
I know, it's awful.
I don't use the word cringe often, but
Like, Muse have always been a bit borderline with their kind of conspiratorial libertarian nonsense. It always seemed a bit sort of esoteric and weird for a while, and then it started actually becoming politically relevant, and now it's a bit just distasteful. But yeah, they're just straight up using sheeple as if it's clever.
yeah.
Honestly, at this point, if anyone uses that entirely unironically, I'm just going to not trust anything else that comes out of their face. It's
They
like,
have
you
to
haven't
know.
been paying any attention, have you?
They have to know. I hope they know. But the other reason I bring it up is because it's called "The Will of the People," and it uses the kind of triplet sort of the will of the people, the will of the people. And anybody who has listened to any music in the early 2000s will know that rhythm from "The Beautiful People" by Marilyn Manson, and it's just the same rhythm. They just stole it.
Wow.
With the same, like, syllabic structure and half the words. It's
Wow.
amazing. It's so brazen. Sorry, I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I get why you want to bring it up. I'm just... Yeah.
I guess in retrospect, the fun fact was the sheeple bit, but...
I mean, both pretty... They're both fun facts. Just one involves, like, borderline plagiarism. And the other is just cringe.
I mean, to be fair, it's reason to suspect that Marilyn Manson is not exactly a nice person. Potential claims of abuse, etc., etc. So I'm not going to feel bad for him in the same way that I don't feel bad that Adam and the Ants stole a musical motif from Rolf Harris. Screw him.
I mean, not gonna feel bad about it. It's just kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Muse.
Apparently, they're going through something.
They're going through. They released 3 singles so far from the new album. They're all different. None of them feel like Muse songs, really, and one of them feels like 3 parts from 3 different songs just sort of stapled together. Like, it changes timing between the verse and the chorus, and it doesn't. I don't know. It's weird. And like, their last album was like eclectic, but not in a kind of virtuosic way, not in a kind of like, ooh, we're experimenting with lots of interesting ideas. No, they just didn't really have any coherence. So I don't know. Muse, something's happening with Muse.
Something is happening with
Yeah.
Muse. Probably not something good.
Probably not. Anyway, I went for the idea of a leaf cup. Where you just take a bunch of leaves and you just stitch them together into a cup.
Hey, leaf.
It was originally supposed to be a nut. You just hollow out a nut. Yeah, use that as a cup, but I ended up.
A very tiny cup.
It could be a big nut. I was about to say coconut. It's not a nut.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's nut adjacent.
I mean, again, fantasy.
Yeah, it's a fantasy coconut. In the same way we have fantasy
coconut, where it
fantasy
is a
poppies.
nut.
It's just in game.
That's the fantasy part about it.
Yeah.
That is
It's
Look.
identical to a coconut in every way except that it is a nut.
Fuck you, biologist. That's what you get.
Oh yeah, that's a good video. Kiro posted a video of a song called Sucker, which I confess I had not heard prior to that video, but I can't remember who it's by. Some popular people. But basically they reconstruct the entire song with samples of other songs.
Yeah.
And it's good. Yeah, it's very difficult to write anything original, but to me, it's one of those things. A lot of songs tend to have a main motif. They tend to have a thing that defines this. This is the bit of the song. This is the idea of the song. And you're going to have more than one idea in a song, but you'll have one that's like, this is the idea. And it's just in that Muse song, the idea was clearly an idea that was from another very popular song. And they didn't even bother changing the words very much. So, and I think in that example, the Sucker one, the video that was in there, that Kiro posted, the video that was in there, what's it on? Brain, are you working? The main motif, I think the vocal motif, is very, very similar to like an old Motown song. And I think in that instance, it was so close that they had to put those people as co-writers to the song because the melody was just so similar. So yeah, we are in a. I'm one of those people who's sort of like on the fence about these sorts of things. I don't like all these overbearing copyright cases and making it so that you can't do anything that sounds like anything else without the lawyers knocking on your door and saying we demand a cut, etc., etc. I think we should have a bit more of a bit like the old style, the old way of doing music, where there were like 5 songs and everyone knew those 5 songs but had their own versions of them, and they went around the country playing their versions of the song.
Part of it is because copyright. So copyright basically started as a thing that was supposed to help protect ideas of smaller creators against big businesses that were essentially taking the idea and then monetizing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, but now you can't because it legally belongs to someone else. But what happened is corporations basically did that and went, okay, but what if we own it? And then can go from there. So you've got all of these corporations that, quote unquote, own the copyright, even if no one in the corporation actually made the thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of instances of artists who are like, I don't own the copyright to this because I made it under a deal with the company. They gave me the money. Basically, a lot of musicians are basically paid. They write to commission. Not explicitly to commission. It's not like I would like to write you a song about so on and so forth. They're just like, we'll give you the money to record. In exchange, we'll own the copyright.
Yeah, and that's
a record contract.
God, what's her name? Pop sing Taylor Swift, I think.
That's a name
ran
that
into
exists.
that problem. I assuming I'm not mixing up pop stars, which I probably am, so bear with me. But I think it's Taylor Swift who had to re-record a bunch of her old songs because her old record label technically owned them, and she couldn't do anything with them after she left the record label.
Ah, so she owned the songwriting copyright, but not the recording copyright. Because whenever whenever you make music, there are two copyrights that come into effect. There's the copyright on the notation, the actual like written music itself, and then there's the recording on the performance. So this is why a lot of people get tripped up on like YouTube if you put a piece of Mozart or whatever in your video, and then you get a copyright strike. How can there be a copyright strike? Mozart's been dead for so and so many years. And it's like, yes, but the people who performed that particular recording you use, they have the copyright over that recording. So there are two different things. So I imagine in Taylor Swift's case, it was probably she still had the copyright of the composition, but not of the recording. So she just like, well, I'll make new recordings then. I can do that.
Yes, it was something like that. But still, it's kind of one of those things of, to me, that's still pretty ridiculous. And it's one thing with the Mozart case where it's like, okay, the man has been dead, but yes, you are using the recording that someone else made.
Yeah, it takes a lot of money
Taylor,
and effort to...
for the most part, does her own music recording. Now, you can make the argument that some of it's not great, but it's like, that's still her work. So she doesn't own the recording of her work that she made.
Yeah.
Because copyright is a joke.
Copyright is being implemented in weird ways. But again, it's one of those things of like, somebody commissioned you to do the thing and they paid for it, so they're going to take what they want because they're the one who given you the money, I don't know how copyright would have worked. It wouldn't have been copyright per se, but back in the day of like wealthy benefactors giving money to Bach and Mozart and so on and so forth to write them concertos.
Well, I mean, there's a similar, and I don't know it so much in music, but I know on the art side of things, there's a difference between someone commissioned you to make a drawing and then you still own the rights to the drawing, versus someone commissioned you to make a drawing and now they own the rights to the drawing. That's a different set of paperwork involved. So, if when Dark commissions you to make artwork for his various RPG shenanigans going on, I have a feeling he hasn't gone through and done the paperwork and paid you the rights for, God, I don't even remember what it's called.
There are reproduction rights and things like that.
I think. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that is essentially down to me. I would have to specify. I could very well just give away the licensing for free. I don't have to charge.
Well, I mean, there's always that. And there are people who do that for one reason or another. And that's fine as long as they know what they're talking about.
But I do state in my terms and conditions that no reproduction or selling on or modification of the artwork without permission from me. So I in my terms and conditions, I do specify that I continue to hold the rights for reproduction. But at the same time, the only people who have commissioned me are friends, and I don't care what they do with my stuff. So. I trust my friends. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
But yeah, well, and I mean, it's relevant to what I was saying. It's basically, you've got the difference between you're paying me because you want to see a work made, or you're paying me because you want to see works made, versus you're paying me for a thing that you want to monetize. So again, you want to have the license to it. And that's... yeah, it's just odd to me. Especially since usually with those sorts of things, maybe it's just because most of the time when I'm looking at stuff dealing with like paying for licensing fees, it's because you were commissioned to make something specifically for their business or brand. So like making logos and helping make like jingles and whatnot. So with that sort of thing where it's like we've paid you to make a thing specifically for our branding thing, that sort of makes sense to me. But like all of Taylor's songs were for like she was performing them, and it's like it's part of her pop history or whatever. It's not like, I don't know, Coca-Cola hired her to make a jingle or something.
Yeah, but what would be the financial benefit of giving somebody a lot of money to record something without getting anything back? That's
Right.
therein lies the thing. As soon as you turn this into a commercial activity, somebody's going to want a return on the money. And therein lies the downfall of music. you turn it into a commercial activity. I want a thing you can give me versus I want you to make a thing. Exactly, yeah. Like, it's I'm sure there are people around who go to artists and say, here's 20 quid. I don't care what you make something you want. Enjoy. But most people are gonna go, here's 20 quid. I want you to draw this, please. And I'd just like to say off of that, don't give people money before you've agreed what to do. It's very annoying. But yeah, in answer to your question, Christy, I don't know what they did back then. That's an interesting question. Like, how would the people who commissioned Mozart to write a concerto, like, be protective over who could perform that from that point? Would they keep all of the sheet music so that it couldn't be reproduced?
I mean, to be
know.
fair, in regards to Mozart and like all other composers around this time, like Bach and whoever.
Yeah, gotta
Bach
remember,
was
there
much
were a
older.
lot of
But
composers at the time. So.
most composers were working for either the church, mostly the church actually, or very important people like the king.
Yeah,
And
it was
those could
usually
afford to hire composers. So it's less like who owns the music and more who is the composer working for.
it's what's it called? Yeah, basically it's like having an artist in residence.
Yeah.
Where it's just they're sort of there, you're paying them to make stuff.
And also just more in general, like if like Bach, for example, Bach especially is someone who worked, I think, only for the church or primarily for the church. He made church music. Who's gonna perform that? It's churches.
Yeah, true. Not many people have massive organs. Don't laugh.
Now we're going to because
I said don't.
It.
I said don't. I explicitly said don't.
Yeah, but I didn't question that statement until you said don't laugh.
I mean, but also on the similar vein, it's not like you could like easily distribute stuff because one, sound recordings are not a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Two, when you're copying the sheet music, you literally had to do that by hand. So it's not like you could just go print another one and hand it over to someone and say, "Here you go." Like, the printing press was still very much a move metal typeface around, put ink on typeface, press paper on typeface, and I'm not sure they had the tools for putting music on it. They probably had things that would make, like, the lines at least. Because God, trying to draw a whole bunch of straight lines by hand for composing music just sounds like pain.
Oh, they probably had, like, the tie 5 pencils in a row thing. They probably had something like that.
You joke, but I have seen that with chalk.
Yeah.
Where you've got, like, a piece of wood and metal bits onto it. You put a piece of chalk in each one of those and you slide it across the board. So they might have had those. Who knows? My point is, I don't think they had a printing press for notes, even if they had things where you could do a printing press for the lines of the sheet music.
But this is the thing, it's like the copyright exists. Copyright is a response to a technological development. which was the printing press, who has the right to copy this stuff. Now that it is very quick to copy things, we need to set up a law so that it's, we have control over who can copy things and distribute them, etc., etc. The right to copy, etc.
Yes.
So
In the name.
I mean,
Yeah.
even then, it's more like, how to say this? It's more, because of what's currently being copied, which is, mostly like, uh, publishing houses, I mean, not anymore because who the fuck reads physical books? But like, they want, to have, the rights to a book, but that's also not been around like the whole copyright issue hasn't been around that long, even in regards to books. Because books have been copied for eternities, and that's not mattered until, the last 100 years or so.
yeah, it's not mattered until the printing press came along and made like rapid, large scale printing a viable commercial enterprise.
Yeah.
And so people were like, if other people can do this with the things that we made, then we're going to lose a lot of money. So we want control. A copy, right? Exactly. But yeah, it is a very modern invention. Like, there were just people copying books all over the place before the printing press.
I mean,
Very-
that's what the
careful.
Library of Alexandria was most well known for, taking books, copying them, so that there was more copies.
The sharing of information.
Yeah.
And then money got involved.
Yeah.
Technology advanced faster than the concept of us trying to outgrow money. So laws had to be put in place to make sure that the advanced technology couldn't get in the way of people making the money. It's a slightly depressing end to the stream. Hey, well, did some good draws. Let's do a little tour of the draw. Over here we have life and death being angry in different ways, and
I
Gecko Fairy.
love life and death. They look so cool, Chris.
hey, well, that's Oobs' design.
Yeah, but you made them look cool.
I also gave life some big old claws, because why not?
Yeah, good.
The Library of Alexandria, I believe, was being referred to there, Christy.
Yeah.
Over here we have some fun times with Fame and Fortune, as their beetle, who honestly I want to see more of.
That's the important one here.
You know me, I latch onto the thing that no one else cares about. And there's also maybe that could combined form, maybe not. I don't know. It's got a big X with a no next to it.
Yeah, it's an attempt, and I don't like it.
It's spaghetti.
I like parts of it, but I don't like it.
There you go, first draft. It's good. It's good to look at something and go, I don't like this. This bit's good. I'll take this and do something different, etc., etc.
It's always easier to edit something that exists.
Yes.
It's mostly like I like the face. The rest of the body is leaning too much towards sexy, and that's not what I want. But
do you not want
that's on
sexy
me.
jester? You know what sexy jester?
No, that's not the one I want here. No.
Well, you drew it. Duck whistle and there's a chicken. It's quite a nice looking chicken.
I mean, in context, it's probably a duck.
Oh right, yeah, duck. Is that what comes when you blow the whistle?
No, those are not related to each other.
Okay, fair enough. There's a nice pot, and some souvenirs. You visit the viaduct, and all you get is bric-a-brac. Much bric-a-brac. We have Frog in a Pot,
Frog
who
in a
honestly
pot.
looks like a fun enemy. Or character, I don't know. I feel like if they were an enemy, they would have like the defensive form and the vulnerable form, whether they're sticking their head out, but they can't see
Yeah.
properly in the thing, so they just sort of waddle around, like unable to see where they're going and bumping into walls when they're in defensive mode. Got a nice catfish and a terrifying catfish with legs. Mooning. Quest for the broken spyglass. Yeah. And up here we have The Mistake. We have a cool puzzle box. Which looks like not only it would be difficult to open, but also it can be splinters. I always think that when you see the puzzle boxes that are like so neatly designed that they look, everything's like perfectly flat. You can't see where the bits that slide, and they just join together so perfectly that when you actually slide out a piece, it's so sharp because it had to fit perfectly with the things either side of it. I'm like, I would cut
Oh
myself.
yeah, especially the stuff that gets laser cut these days. Ooh.
Yeah.
We, my aunt and uncle gave us a laser cut puzzle, and trying to get the pieces of that together is a pain.
Yeah, and bracelet, which was, what was that for?
Bracelet,
bracelet.
necklace, I'm
Necklace,
not sure.
that's the
I just
word.
figured something
Always-
inside the puzzle box of use. This like
alright.
medallion thing, maybe.
I always confuse the word necklace and bracelet. Apple logies. Is an enemy. Is an enemy. Good. I like this enemy. Good enemy. Frog. Cool. This is cool stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, so item week. It's not a
Item week.
character.
Yeah.
Not a character. But yeah, you have your ideas. We also have, as we have discussed, lots of items that the character can just sort of have, like healing items and upgrades and restoratives and MacGuffins, etc., etc. So feel free to branch out of, the areas that you're in. Yeah.
And I guess we
Stuff.
should put somewhere in there that for everyone to give you like 3 instruments for music stuff.
Oh yeah, I'll stick that in the VIA thing. It'll help. I think it'll help keep you focused a bit.
Yeah, that way you're not trying to force an entire orchestra in there.
Yeah. Oh, some of them are a bit more restricted, like, because I've tried to come up with an idea for pretty much everybody's area at this point. Some of them, like Kiro's area, I have 5. And none of them are quite working. But yeah, some of them are simpler, some of them are more complicated. But I think it would be nice to have like a focus, or it will be an absolute agonizing restriction. And I'm gonna feel like, oh god, if only I had a French horn. I don't know. This is just a random aside, as is most of my conversation, to be honest. French horn, lovely instrument, big old brass wah sound, great.
A
Wah. It's lovely sound wah, like that. Sounds like a
good
cow.
Yoshi sound.
Yoshi is a French horn. Who knew? English horn. It's like an oboe.
There's an English.
There's an English horn, ironically often called cor anglais.
That. Hold on.
Yeah,
Why?
and it's like an oboe, but I think it's slightly lower register. I prefer it to the oboe personally, but it's like there's the French horn and the English horn, and they have absolutely nothing in common at all.
Of course. Why would they? Honestly.
I mean, most of the time I forget that the English horn is technically called an English horn, because, yeah, that's what it is. And that to me doesn't look like a horn.
That's
it's not.
not a horn.
Yeah, I don't really know what a horn is classified. This isn't a flute situation where I know specifically what it. That's not a flute, by the way.
It kind of looks like a flute.
No. I mean,
Looks more like a flute than a horn.
It does look more like a flute than a horn. I will give you that. It does. It has a double reed at the end though, and that makes it not a flute. In fact, that makes it more like the thing that we were talking about that wasn't a flute. I can't remember what it was. What was it called? The Aureolus or something? Aureolus?
A flute.
No.
This will be forever the topic I make Chris mad with.
No! It's not a flute! It's like the Great Dane called the Grand Noir in Danish. Mm. The big black? That's a cool name. Anyway, but yeah, that was just an aside that you have this sort of like slightly nasal oboe-esque instrument as the English horn, and this sort of nice warm brassy wah Yoshi as the French horn. And I'd be interested to know what your country's horn is. I mean, let's face it. If there's a modernization of country horns, then the British horn is probably the vuvuzela.
I forgot about that.
So much so that became our like villain theme in our Pokemon game. So they just had vuvuzelas.
Yeah.
I mean, I just googled Dutch horn and I got that. So, you know.
What did you get?
What? Ooh! Oh, like a car horn.
Conk.
And I'll show this on screen. Dutch horn. Do you know what that looks? That looks like there's a weapon in Elden Ring that is just like a trumpet that goes. Bwah. It looks like that. You've got an Elden Ring weapon. It's great.
Yay!
Apparently, that's a rail car horn.
Not in any recent times, I imagine.
No.
Now I'm imagining in Project Via what instruments our character can wield as a weapon. We haven't got weapons yet, but soon. The weapons are items.
Soon. And by then you will have thought of an instrument that can be wielded like a weapon.
I mean, I'm looking
any
forward to just
instrument
like
can be wielded like a weapon if you either don't care about being able to play it or you play it really loudly.
or both. What would be the least weapony, or like the most unwieldy? The most unwieldy would be like a sousaphone, right? Just a.
Something very big here.
You throw.
I mean,
a
I
sousaphone
imagine
like
trying to hit
giant
someone
frisbee.
with a grand piano would be very difficult on account of the fact that they're big.
You've never seen a cartoon. Happens all the time. Anvil is technically an instrument, same thing. I remember when I bought an orchestral instrument pack and there was an anvil in it, and I'm like, what? Why is there an anvil in here? Turns out it's a percussion
There's
instrument.
at least one classical piece of music out there where one of the instruments was originally a cannon.
Yes. Concerto for Canon.
Like anything can be an instrument if you try hard enough,
Yeah.
or
A lot of
are
instruments,
just really bored.
A lot of instruments were malleable. There was
I mean,
very high probability at one point that the saxophone would become a regular member of the orchestra. There's an argument to be said that it was purely the fact that the person who invented the saxophone just... How can I describe this? He was very uncouth with the way he was trying to promote things. And as a consequence, everyone was like, phew, not having his instrument then. But you look at like the evolution of the saxophone, and it's like really cool developments from like clarinets and bass clarinets. It's all malleable. It's whatever can make a noise can be an instrument. Have
whatever
fun.
can make noise can be a weapon.
Exactly. Whatever can make noise can be an instrument, and in order to make noise, it has to have a physical form. And anything with a physical form can be a weapon. That's it. That's the connection. Music is weaponry.
Anyway.
Anyway, end of the stream. Thank you for coming along. Hope you all had a lovely time. We had some fun doodles. Apologies for technical difficulties on Christy's end. Hopefully we can sort it out so that we can talk with friends and have good times.
I want to talk to Christy.
I want to talk to
With
Christy.
Christy.
Yes. No, only two.
No, with.
We're going to talk at Christy. No. Yeah. Have, oh, it's Sunday, isn't it?
Yep.
Have a good week, I guess.
Have a good week.
Have a good week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.